out there on Zoom? Okay, I'm seeing a head nod. Great. Thanks for joining us. We have some people still joining right now. So we're just gonna get started. At the beginning of every meeting, we do general updates from all of the attendees. So I'll call out different names and you can tell us any updates on projects that you're working on, upcoming events that you want to share, requests for collaboration or other things that you want to share right now. And we'll just get started with that right now. So the first person I see on Zoom is Jessica Politz from Sonoma RCD. Do you want to give us a little update about how your summer's going?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Politz. I'm the engineering director with Sonoma RCD. I am here to speak on the panel, so not necessarily have a forestry update, but happy to be here and listen in.
Great, thank you. And then we can hop over into the room with us. Fred, do you want to give a little update?
I'm Fred Ufrat, licensed forester, work in Sonoma County and Mendocino County, and I will be giving you an update of my current projects at the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next person I see on Zoom is Bianca Vargas.
Hi. Hi everyone. I don't know if you can see me right now. Okay.
Oh,
yes. Hi, for our Sonoma Land Trust updates, we've recently restarted our volunteer program and we've kind of like started making more volunteer events, sort of like fence removals. Well, right now it's only fence removals, but hoping to do more things. And we're also restarting our easement resource group to provide further land management support for our easement property owners. And right now at the stewardship side, we're planning for fall burns right now with projects in the coast, which is Pole Mountain and Nice Valley. So yeah.
okay, great, thank you. And then for those volunteer events, will they be on your website, or if folks are interested, should they sign up for a newsletter or something like that?
Yeah, so right now, if people are interested, you gotta submit information through our website, and there will be volunteer onboarding that our volunteer manager is a hosting, which is just like
Okay.
introduction to projects and any other legal things. Not really sure what goes on in the onboarding process, but
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing. Let's see, I'll go back into the room. Judy, I know we're gonna hear from you during the panel, but is there any update that you want to give now?
Yes, there is.
Great.
Excuse me. I'm Judy Rosales with the Coast Ridge Community Forest. There are a couple of things I would just like to announce. One of them is we held an NBFIP application clinic last month, and in 2 hours we completed 20 forest management plans with 4 foresters. Applications, yes, no, they didn't finish the plans, yeah, application. And thank you, Fred. We had Jason Wells and Genevieve Torino from the RCD, Matt Green and his forester, Kirsten Sequoia. We're happy, we're very excited about it. We're going to hold another clinic the next round, and just real brief, we did this as a 2-part series. We did a community meeting where Genevieve and Jason came and they talked about the NBFIP program. The application wasn't ready yet, but they did allow people to ask questions, and they provided, a lot of information. And I would also like to acknowledge Jill Butler, who did our first application clinics with us, I don't know how many years ago. And where I think we submitted 15 plans from that program. So we're excited about that. The other thing I want to announce is that we just finished, Brain Ridge, a shaded fuel break on Brain Ridge. That was funded by the county's vegetation management grant program. Brain Ridge is a major ridge line in that area, along with Creighton Ridge, Moorheart Ridge, Blue Jay Ridge. And so that's a great connecting road and a great access road for our ranches. And then the last thing right now, and I can get into the rest later, we have 4 crews. Currently working to finish up our CAL FIRE grant on 3 different ranches. We have the CV Ranch, the Walla Ranch, the Navarro Ranch, and Munis Ranches. And the Jenner Headlands are right now, we're finalizing all the agreements with the Wildlands Conservancy for the Jenner Headlands. And we expect to start that one probably in about a month or 2, just trying to get all of that together. So we're really fortunate that we have these local crews in our community. And also we just feel great about building our local economy through these forest workers. That's it.
Great. Lots of exciting announcements. We're so busy. Okay, let's see, back on Zoom, I see Jason Mills as the next person on screen.
Everybody. Yeah, we've been busy with invasive plant control work. We've got a contract with Sonoma RCD for post-fire invasives, and we've been working in Upper Mark West, mainly focused on star thistle, but there's a bunch of egg leaf spurge up there, Euphorbia oblongata, that's taking over a lot of the understory with big acreage. So we're setting up a plan to get at that next year. And then we've also been doing some mitigation restoration work along the Russian River and keeping trees alive through the heat, getting some shade on them. And also been involved in doing some training work for workforce development and helping some of the job training programs out there with more ecological approaches to vegetation management, training workshops and such. So keeping up all the good work, and it's great to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you for your update. Let's see, back in the room, Bryn, do you want to give a little update?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bryn Miller. I'm an environmental planner at Sonoma Ecology Center. I'll be presenting on some of our work during the grants panel, so I will leave it to them.
Great, sounds good. And then maybe I'll just jump over to Patty.
I'm Patty Aaron. I'm a community engagement specialist with the Sonoma RCD. I think the biggest news is that we are regrouping on the North Bay Forest Improvement Plan, pushing back the application date to January. So we're working on improving the program. And then also just gearing up for some community engagement. No details yet, but that's what we're working on. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
It worked great for us.
And then, let's see, back onto
You're pushing
Zoom.
September to January?
Yes,
Did you really say that?
I really said that.
Okay, there was also a rumor that you're taking management plans at any time. That you have a continuing rolling.
That is true. Yeah.
She
Okay,
knows more than I know.
Oh, you can set that any time though, so you don't have to push for that next time.
okay, and that previous deadline was management plans, and now we have made it continuous and we've moved the other the one to January.
The previous deadline included implementation too,
Right,
so
but
it was everything.
yeah, it was everything, but it was a deadline.
Yes.
Good job, beat again.
So this is a rolling deadline now
For management plans,
for management
but
plans.
projects, the deadline is January.
It's
Something.
not set yet.
I don't know. I just know that they've pushed the application period to starting in January. I don't know the dates.
And do you know when you are approving, telling clients?
I would ask
that you-
Adriana these questions. She's on the ops committee. I am not.
Okay.
I'll say more in my update.
Please do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we have a whole group coming for the next round.
Yeah, Okay, so we'll get an NP update from Adriana. Do you wanna just do that now? Curiosity is. Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Adriana Stagnero. I work for Gold Ridge Resource Conservation District. And I want to thank, Judy, you mentioned that your community just did the North Bay Forest Improvement Program clinics to help some folks in your neighborhood apply for forest management plans. That's great. The North Bay Forest Improvement Program also covers implementation of all kinds of forest improvement activities, fuel reduction, site prep and planting, all of that. And it's funded by CAL FIRE, and it supports those projects in the 4 North Bay counties of Sonoma, Mendocino, Napa, and Lake. So this is a 4-county area. And we're just kind of getting it back up and running again after it's been down for a few years. We just had and closed our last most recent batching application period where people could apply for implementation projects. And they were also just receiving applications for forest management plans on a rolling basis. So you can apply for a forest management plan through that program at any time that we're open. At least that's how we have it set up right now. But if you want to apply for an implementation project, you'll have to apply at the time when the application is open, and we have those open typically for about 2 weeks to a month. And we will announce when that comes open. And we'd love to do more of these application clinics to help people prepare. So previously we thought that we would have another one really quickly in September, but it's feeling like it makes more sense actually for us to wait until January, because there's some improvements we want to make to the program overall, and we want those improvements to be in place by the time people apply for when they apply for a second time or apply for the first time. And we just didn't want to have people apply in what we're feeling like is still kind of like the old version. We want people to apply to the new and improved version. And we just need more time to make those improvements. We're also kind of doing, right now, we're having conversations with foresters and consultants to learn from them what worked for them and what didn't work in the last round, as well as fresh in everyone's minds, so that we can take that information into our improvement process. And if you're curious about who will be awarded from the most recent batch, we've just looked over our top projects, and we're going to be making contact with those applicants, making sure that they're all good to go and that everything they said we're just going to verify that everything is the case, that they applied everything they said in their application. And then if those clear out, then we will make those awards, and we'll be sending rejection letters to those who didn't make it. So I think everyone will know within 1 month if they've been awarded or not.
Oh, okay. We did have one landowner who applied for implementation. That'll be coming out in about a month as well.
I think so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. What else? I guess something else that might be, I don't know if we really talked that much about Measure H in this group, but I thought maybe it would be worth just saying that the Measure H funds are starting to result in work on the ground. And I'm not connected to Measure H, but I've been in meetings with Fire Safe Sonoma and some of the fire departments who are connected to Measure H funds. And again, that was a measure, tax measure that was voted on in the last election cycle back in November. It was approved, and it was I think it was a sales tax that supports a fund for our local fire districts. And some of that money goes to vegetation management, and it funds a vegetation management crew out of Northern Sonoma County Fire. And that crew is available to work on projects. They're really seeking, they want community members who have a good project idea to submit their project through the project portal, which Fire Safe Sonoma will have up and running soon. They're just kind of building things, so it's getting started. But they're looking for projects that are roadside fuel reduction. That's kind of an easy project type for them. And they want it to be a project that would not normally happen by the county transportation department. They kind of feel like if the county can do this project, then we want the county to do it. But if it's on a private road, or if it's a more extensive project, and especially if it has a community benefit, then they like a more specific or profound community benefit, then they want to know about it and they will put their career resources towards it. So if you have an idea like that, you should reach out to Fire Safe Sonoma or your local fire department with your idea, and then they can help you take it to the next step and apply to have the Measure H crew come out and work on it.
So I have a question on, I've been working with our local fire district, which is Goldridge. And they're also our lead agency for our CalBTP. And also working with Jason Warner, who is our district lead, our regional lead on the coast there. And what I heard from Jason last week was that might change. And you said that they were gonna be looking at the portal was gonna open. But you also said that there were already projects on the ground. So I'm wondering how those projects on the ground got started if the portal isn't open yet.
I think there maybe is only one that's happened, and it's happened through, and if it has happened, it's just kind of happened through conversation. There's a filtering, like vetting process, right? And Fire Safe Sonoma is still kind of figuring out how they want the application process to work, sort of like building it as we go. But I think that there may have been one project that the crew was already approved to work on because it met all the criteria and the crew is ready to go. I think, but I could be wrong. Otherwise, we've just been kind of like discussing project ideas, trying to look for high need areas. And Fire Safe Sonoma has been trying to do, I think they've done like a webinar or two
I've
on
been to
Measure
Alton,
H.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're trying to like get the word out and get people to start thinking about projects. So it's
Very
only
good.
the beginning.
I talked to Roberta. She called Marshall. I got in touch with Marshall and gave him our suite of projects. He has spoken with Goldridge, and Goldridge has been in touch with Timber Code. And we're still waiting because they said, well, there are being changes made and the portal's not ready. And so I'm hoping that there will be some kind of announcement exactly of what's going on and how we can start submitting our projects.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Yeah, I think
Because we already got approval from all three fire services. And we just don't know what to do with them right now.
okay, so they're just kind of letting you know that they're not ready yet.
Well, Jason, the way it was explained to me was that we go through our local fire district, and that's Goldridge. And then they get in touch, and then they submit them, they approve, and if they're okay, then it goes on to our regional lead, which is Timber Code. And yet when I spoke with the Timber Code chief a week or two ago, he said, I'm not really quite sure yet. I did speak with Darren DeCarly, but we're not really quite sure yet how to proceed. So, I just want to make sure that it's clear in my head how it's working and how the process, how to, walk through the process.
For sure. I mean, I think you've done everything right. Maybe just tell Roberta, just get in contact with Roberta and she can let you know exactly where things are at with that application.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know.
No, we haven't even applied yet because we don't know what to do with we don't know what to do with the projects. They're there. But, so I think what I'll do is I'll get back in touch with Jason first and, follow our, the procedure that we're already aware of. And then, and rather than just bombard Roberta with all this, because I'm sure she's hearing a lot. I'm sure she's getting a lot of questions. Yeah. So thank you, Adriana, for kind of clarifying that.
Yeah, no worries.
Mhm.
And that's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good, let's see, maybe back onto Zoom. Dan Grupp, do you want to give an update?
Yeah, sure. Not sure if I'm showing up there or not, but hopefully you can all hear me.
We can hear
We
you,
can
but
hear you.
we can't
Good.
see you yet.
I'm stepping back in to the leadership role at Mill Creek Cope after a couple of years of focusing mostly on our rebuild here after the fire 5 years ago this week. So trying to reinitiate a few community projects. We put in several miles of shaded fuel break with the help of ag and open space funds years ago, and the latter fuel and regrowth now is such that there's quite a bit of maintenance needed there. So approaching we'll be looking for some of the Measure H funds if possible, and I'm also the portions that are on our private property, we're going to be trying to deal with through the North Bay FIP program. So happy to hear application window's been pushed back a little bit since we have a lot of pretty tall regrowth at Ten Oaks Madrones and some thinning to be done in the fuel breaks through here. We just finished up 4 or 5 years of EQIP work through NRCS and got certified on the last of that. So most of the large dead trees were dealt with that way, but now we got a lot of ladder fuel and regrowth to deal with. And we're also looking, we had a 20 acres of broom removed in 100-acre properties here. Heavy duty work, part of the grant through SRCD, completed a 7-acre prescribed burn on part of that broom. So that's been working really well. We've had very little regrowth in the burn zone and most of the cut zones. And I guess the only thing else we're looking at is just trying to revive a little bit of our community was somewhat gutted by the fire. Not a lot of people have rebuilt. So it's been 5 years without a major wind or fire event in our zone, and we're just hoping people don't get too complacent. We're basically trying to figure out a way to deal with a lot of the vacated properties where the landowners are not present. They don't have necessarily a dog in the fight in terms of a house to protect, and trying to incentivize people that may not even be living in the county anymore to manage their land more towards fire safety and forest recovery. But I'm happy to say, despite those challenges, our little 100-acre woods section of Mill Creek is thriving and being restored, thanks to the ongoing work of all the agencies and all of you. So we're happy to be in our new home and help other people do the same with help of groups like yours.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Dan, and thanks for all the work that you're doing in your community. Let's see, maybe in the room, I don't know if we've met.
My name is Brad Valentine. I'm
Oh.
just a member of the interested public.
Great,
No projects.
great,
Different.
awesome. Thanks for sharing, thanks for coming. And then back onto Zoom, what about Raymond Baltar?
Yes, hi, Raymond Baltar. I'm the Climate Biochar Project Manager at Sonoma Ecology Center. Bryn is on your panel today, so she'll fill you in on all the stuff we're involved with there. I did just want to mention that we're very open to collaborating this winter on training crews for processing forest slash into biochar. So keep us in mind if you have a project that you'd like to have a crew landowner trained. So Bryn will talk about the rest of it.
Great, thank you, and thanks for coming today. I think for my update, I just wanted to make sure everyone knows about our picnic that's coming up on Saturday, September 13th. So in place of our September meeting, we'll have a picnic where we all get to hang out together and eat lunch, and it's gonna be at Rancho Mark West. I think Fred's gonna help us out with food a little bit, but we'll get more details about that later. We're looking at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So when folks first arrive, we'll gather and go on a little guided walk. And a herpetologist, Beth Sabo, who works at WRA, is gonna join us to kind of guide us through that walk, show us around the creek. I got an email from her that it sounds like there are some frogs, maybe some exciting frogs there that we'll be able to see. Maybe endangered species.
She's a newt expert.
A newt expert, okay.
Yes, for all
Wow.
of those of you who have questions about red-bellied newts, we will be talking.
Okay, great. So we'll have a little educational walkabout, and then for like the first hour, and then we'll have lunch together. And then we'll have the chance to do another walk up to the top of the hill and talk about the fire that happened there and the forest management there. So I want to keep that on everyone's radar. September 13th, save the date, and we'll send out more information through the listserv. And then I think that's about it for me. At the end of all of our updates, I'll show you a little update from Kim because he can't be here today, but he wants to share some new resources from the county, so I'll show those at the end. And then let's see, back into the room. Jill is next to me. Do you want to give an update?
Yeah, Jill Butler representing Willamette River Watershed Council. In the watershed, water quality is rolling out their total maximum daily load program, and at least the first phase of that is gonna be working with the larger landowners, which is about somewhere between 15 and 20 landowners in the watershed that own 1,000 acres or more. And the emphasis is going to be on road assessment and repair. And I'm not sure if it's Sonoma or Goldridge RCD that's going to be helping them with workshops and training.
Oh, Sonoma.
For those folks. Watershed Council folks are doing a field trip tomorrow for some of the water quality staff.
Jill, excuse me, but, can we get notices about that? I don't know if our community was aware about this field trip. Because I hadn't heard about it.
I will send you, they have a mailing list and you'll get notified about all the public comment periods. They've got an action plan out and something else. That has a separate public comment period, and and then I think you would also get notified about workshops and whatnot.
Okay, I mean, I am.
And probably, I can send you the link for that, but probably.
Thank you, that's good.
Adriana or Rose can.
I think Patty would.
Can get you in the loop too, or Patty, there you go, is that, you have a mailing list yet?
Do I? No,
Or-
we're going through them,
Okay,
and they don't have the dates for the workshops yet.
Oh, okay, because I am on their mailing list and I
Okay,
hadn't
great.
seen it, so, I mean, I hadn't seen that there was a workshop tomorrow, otherwise I would have sent out an announcement.
yeah,
For community,
well, it's not a workshop, it's just a field trip.
or I mean, the field trip,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, and it's just for, it's got very tight sideboards on who can go,
Oh,
cause private property owners are concerned about letting water quality staff onto their
Oh, yeah.
property and maybe getting in trouble, so,
okay,
yeah.
thank
and,
you.
Yeah, but yeah, if you're getting the announcements from water quality about all the public comment periods, then that's the list to be on, at this point.
Okay.
And I also just wanted to just say a little bit about Mediterranean oak borers. So Jeannie Chin had sent us an invitation to a Zoom meeting, and I went, and it is terrifying. So I knew we had Mediterranean oak borer, and I thought it was in the Laguna, and I hadn't noticed any dead trees driving up and down Todd Road, but apparently it's terrible.
Hmm.
So it's introduced, it hits white oaks, so that's valley blue, white oaks and hybrids thereof. And and Matt Bancaro, who has come to some of our meetings, was the speaker, and he said he has seen thousands of trees killed by it. So it hits the top of the tree, and may cause flagging or dieback or sparseness, and then depending on the season, the tree will die either that year or the following year. So it's bad, and it's here, and if you find it on your property, about all you the only advice seemed to be to tarp the wood to kind of help keep the beetles from, they're already in the wood by the time you cut your tree down from spreading further. But there's so many of these beetles that are at the outbreak point, and apparently they're hitting trees of all sizes and ages. So now you can all be scared too. And that's what I had to share.
Thank you for sharing. That's a good update, and I think maybe that webinar will be recorded, I'm not sure, but also.
It is,
Okay.
and it's on the Sierra Club,
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like that should be pretty easily accessible. And then we had Mike Jones talk about that a little bit earlier this year, so we have a recording on our website too. Yeah, lots of good resources out there. Let's see, back onto Zoom. I think the last person on Zoom is Brooke Edwards.
Good morning, everyone. Brooke Edwards from Sonoma County Regional Parks. We're working on a number of different fuel reduction projects. We are looking to do a shaded fuel break up on the new Monterey Redwoods expansion property. So there's 3 miles of strategic ridgeline road that we want to turn into or implement a shaded fuel break along that section. And so this fall, we're looking at treating that northern 1 mile section with crews from CAL FIRE and the Hood Mountain Crew CAL FIRE crews up there. So hopefully within about a month and a half, we'll start on that work. We are also looking at doing fuels reduction at our Stillwater Cove Regional Park up along the coast, and focusing on kind of the Wooey area adjacent to the Timber Cove subdivision. So that would be the southern and eastern boundaries of Stillwater Cove. We're also looking at doing a number of prescribed burns this fall. Hopefully we'll get around to doing our Tole prescribed fire, which will probably be about 80 acres. We're looking at a prescribed fire at Foothill and also Sonoma Valley. And of course, these are to further reduce fuels within these parks and also hopefully kickstart some of these ecosystem regenerative services that good fire will bring to the landscape. The other thing that we have going on, and this is for the Santa Rosa Junior College, the Wildfire Resilience Program is back up on its feet and running. So we have 20 student interns this fall semester, and we're planning on running the program every fall and spring semester. And so this is basically the JC's workforce development program. So important to have knowledgeable folks out there doing the fuels reduction. And so this is the JC's program, and regional parks as well as a lot of local agencies and nonprofits have hired people from this, the WRP program. So it really is an important program. It has proven that it's very helpful. You can hire these folks onto your crews and they can basically hit the ground running, know how to use chainsaws, build burn piles, burn them, and then also basics of prescribed fire as well. So one thing that we'll be working on for the JC program is to go out and get some grant funding to help support that program. So if anyone hears of workforce development grants that are available, please contact me or Connor Murphy over at the Santa Rosa JC. And that'll be great to know about because the program does need to bring in a funding stream to keep the program going. So that's about it for me. Thanks.
Great, thank you for that update. We just got one more person joining Zoom, so I see that Dee joined us. Dee, do you want to give an update?
Hi there. I had trouble getting on, but here I am, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Yay, thanks for being here. And then one more person in the room. Christopher, do you want to give an update?
Hello, everyone. I'll zoom in here. I'm Christopher Sanchez, hailing from Occidental, West County. Speaking first as a landowner, I'm happy to say with the support of circuit riders, we just completed year 4 of our NRCS grant. It's been a slow process, 4 years to get through just 7 acres of shaded fuel break, adjoining with OAC and their shaded fuel break on the other side. So we've got a good shaded fuel break in the northern corner, butting up against the Camp Meeker Community Park. Unfortunately, we didn't get grant funding yet for that work that needs to happen just over the fence line. So happy about that. I'm also here representing Bohemia Collaborative, Safer West County. There's a neighborhood fire group meetings going on. I think most of you know that Occidental is divided into 16 neighborhood fire groups. So we just had one for the Coleman Valley Road, Timber Lane area just last Sunday. So that's all around organizing neighborhoods around emergency preparation and fuel reduction support. So there's that going on. We're starting to plan our next meeting with Bohemia Collaborative, steering committee, I should say, in October. There's that going on. And then I was just recently, I'm sure that Brooke must know about this, but I just attended the Occidental hosted community meeting for the extension of the monorail Redwoods, which is really, as some of you might know, really Willow Creek Road all the way over to Monorail. So we got the whole Willow Creek neighborhood to come. We had over 30 people show up to that meeting with regional parks to discuss issues, concerns, and what that program looks like, how that's moving forward. As you might know, for those of you that are more interested in community issues, members of that road are concerned about the increased traffic on a road that is pretty substandard. So increased traffic, no place to park. We're trying to keep it low profile, that end of the, and as Brooke would jump in, I'm sure, and say, we're trying to direct traffic to enter that park extension from Monorio, freeze out, and Brooke, there's a third entry point, which I don't know the name of they're talking about, but maybe you do. But anyway, trying to move entry into other areas besides just fragile, vulnerable Willow Creek Road. Anyway, there's more there for sure. We'll talk about it.
Great, thanks for sharing. Okay, and then before we move on to our panel discussion, I wanted to share a little note from Kim Batchelder, who's not available to join us today. But there's a new website that's been launched. It's an effort with the county. And I'll just share my screen, but this is the Resilient Forests and Watersheds Initiative, and the website is now live. And the idea is that it can serve the greater community of Sonoma County with a place like a resource hub to find resources that you're looking for. So the homepage talks a little bit about wildfire resilience work that has happened so far. And then one of the main points here is if you press explore resources, then there's this search tool where you can say like who you are. Do you have 10 plus acres, 1 to 10? Maybe you're representing a government agency. And then what are you looking for? Like reducing the impact of wildfire to your home or something bigger like a forest health project. And then when you press apply filters, it's going to show you relevant results and links to resources that are available right now. So hopefully this can be a good place for folks to come, and I think Kim will give us a bigger tutorial on the website next month or October when we're all meeting again. But that's there for you, and I'll put the link in the chat as well so you can explore this website.
You send out the link with the notes.
Yeah, I'll send out the link. And then that's the website that Kim wanted to share. He also wanted us to share this YouTube video, and I'm not sure if the sound will translate. Does anyone know for sure? I think I can maybe press a special button, but
In fact, I don't know, it might work. Okay, because we've got these speakers here, maybe the speakers will pick up.
Yeah,
Maybe, I don't know.
okay, let's try and see. Can anyone out there on Zoom hear the video? Okay.
I
No,
cannot.
I cannot either.
You cannot. Okay, well, I'm gonna send the link in the chat so you can watch this, but there's a nice video that was put together about the June 24th Workforce Development Workshop. And it talks a little bit about the partnership between the different organizations who worked on it. Shows a little bit of the work that we got done that day, so I'm gonna send that in the chat, and then also maybe next time we'll have the tech savviness to play it for everyone. Okay, so that's about it on our updates, and then we're gonna transition into our panel discussion. And I think all the panelists except for Jessica are here in the room, so we'll be going back and forth a little bit in the room and on Zoom. And then Jill is gonna be our facilitator, so I'll let you take it away. Does that sound good?
Okay, I'm ready at the panel side. And
See, I need
and
to
then-
join the Zoom.
and I set up that table, but you're all at that table, so I don't think you need to move, just stay put. Somebody's got to turn off the microphone.
I did it.
We need that one. How do you move it? So funny, it's not doing it.
And maybe while our panelists prepare, I'll just say, we're gonna have a panel discussion on new projects that people are applying for funding for. I think we have about an hour for this discussion. Are panelists prepared? And maybe you can also remind folks on Zoom of your names. And let's see, Rose has a list of questions for her, and okay, and the first round is to introduce yourself and describe your proposal, what your goals are and what the funding source is. And do you want to start?
Sure, I can go ahead. Hi, everybody. My name is Bryn Miller. I'm an environmental planner and project manager at Sonoma Ecology Center. For a little background on Sonoma Ecology Center, we do ecological work around Sonoma County, but mostly focused in the Sonoma Valley area. We have a pretty robust education program that does a lot of grades 2 through 5 education. We operate Sugarloaf Ridge State Park in collaboration with State Parks. And we also have a research program that focuses a lot on water quality and fish habitat monitoring in Sonoma Creek. And finally, we have a restoration and biochar team that does a lot of land stewardship work, including some fuels reduction work. The proposal I'm speaking with you about today is a gully stuffing project to do some fuels to flow style gully stuffing at several sites around eastern Sonoma County. We're partnering with Sonoma Land Trust and also with regional parks in this effort. We're looking at several sites around the valley. I think the Land Trust has their sites nailed down. Regional Parks is still figuring out exactly where they want to work. And on the Ecology Center side, we're planning to do some work at the Van Hoosier Wildflower Preserve up off Grove Street, as well as maybe some work at Sugarloaf, which is where I just came from this morning, getting to look at some possible sites with our park manager up there. The goal of this project is to reduce erosion and sedimentation in some of those upland gullies that are like class 3 waterways. And that will improve both the water quality and flow for some of our watersheds in Sonoma Valley. And then also comes with the corresponding fuels reduction work that we would need to create the material. At a couple of these sites, at least on the SEC side, we also might be putting in some money in the grant application to follow up those treatments with a prescribed fire to increase biodiversity and habitat, as well as fuel risk at those sites as well. And we are planning to apply to the Coastal Conservancy for this grant.
You're on, Judy.
I'm Judy Rosales with the Coast Ridge Community Forest. The grant project we're working on right now is a CAL FIRE wildfire prevention grant. We put in, actually we put in 4 grant applications with 2 partners and one with the Mariposa RCD, who submitted on behalf of a private landowner. So we're working with, South, South Coast Fire in Mendocino, Timber Cove ourselves, and then the Mariposa, we just assisted, it's one of Matt Green's clients, we assisted on that grant. You know, we put these, excuse me, we put these projects in to increase the pace and scale of the work that we're doing on the coast. Right now, we actually have about 4,000 acres in our project pipeline. Almost 5 in burn units, another 4 something in a pine project, pines that were planted after the Creighton Ridge fire. And then another 2,000 in, field reduction work along the roads, in that area.
How many miles of road is that?
Of this whole project?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, you're working on 14 miles right now, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And,
That's the scale.
oh, if you're including Timber Cove and all of that, yes, that's about right. I didn't bring that spreadsheet with me. It was, cause I could go on and on about all of our projects. But what we did is, we collaborated with Timber Cove collaborated with South Coast, and then there's our projects. So it's 112 acres for Coast Bridge that we submitted to CAL FIRE, but also included in that is another 12,735 acres of CAL BTP. We propose to expand our CAL BTP to encompass the whole area we're working in right now, which is really about 8,000 acres, but you take that additional 4,000, it takes us north and also takes us, you know, inland a little more. And when I talk about increasing the pace and scale of our work, that's why we're trying to get this CAL BTP in. We're going to use the governor's exemptions, the CEQA exemptions, for the 112 acres that we just proposed. But that, you know, has a term limit, a timeline. So we want to be able to have these projects shovel ready as funding becomes available. And out of these 4,000 acres, we already have the landowners on board. Matt Green has already mapped these projects. We've already submitted them, some of them to other funding sources that didn't get funded. So we moved them back into the pipeline so that our suite of projects continues growing. And so that's primarily what we're working on right now. And then Measure H, we have some of those projects that are right now we're presenting to Measure H. And then we also partnered with Sonoma RCD. They put in a concept proposal with us. We put in that proposal with them. They submitted it to the Coastal Conservancy for Prop 4 funds. And so out of those 4,000 acres, we're basically shopping them around with, and trying to partner wherever we can.
Wow.
A lot of work. One thing I just really want to say real quick is that we couldn't do all of this with Matt Green. I mean, I put in NCRP grants, but they cut us back because we're not a DAC area. And then they funded us again. But my point is that Matt lives in our community and he does this work, helps them get it together, maps the projects. And I say, hey, so and so is gonna put something in, can you give me a map of this area? And he does it. So I really just want to acknowledge the work that Matt Green is doing with us up there. And we couldn't do this work without him. And now we have Fred on our board, who is also just so helpful in helping us develop these projects. So I feel we're pretty fortunate.
And Fred, just a minute, and I'm gonna ask everybody else to hold their questions, but Judy could, for those of us that are rusty on our alphabet soup, can you say what DAC and NCAP stand for?
DAC is a disadvantaged community, which was determined by the census on income, your income populations. And I mean, that's a very basic. but it pretty much explains, we have one little DAP community, and that's what this grant, we focused on this grant because that's how we got full funding from NCRP, was the focus on the DAC area. And then NCRP is North Coast Resource Partnership. And they work with all the northern counties. I think there are 9 of them that they're working with. And so, we supply to them for technical assistance, and anyone who is doing any of these grant projects, it's a wonderful resource to, they can, help you with your mapping and GIS, with grant development, and any kind of technical assistance you need to prepare these grants.
Well, here we are. There's a lot of alphabet soup out there, and if I could get the screen, can I capture this?
I think you can share.
I can share. I'm not actually seeing my share button. Oh, there we go, share. Why we have all these things. So, again, I'm Fred Gifford. I'm a private forester. I've been working in the county for, gosh, 40 years or something. And, it's, what? Oops,
Sharing right now.
not sharing.
Yeah, I see your face. It looks like maybe he has his not audio, visual turned off. It's just not letting you, it's not giving you.
And then while we once again have a little break for technology, I will ask folks,
No.
because we're we're scheduled for a 90-minute panel discussion, but we actually have 60 minutes. So if you don't mind, making note of your questions and holding on to them, and we will try to have a few minutes for them at the end.
You have to choose one of these that it's not letting you decide.
I have to choose one of these. It's this. There. Does anybody see that?
No.
No. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my screen if I can.
And despite what I just said,
Turn
well,
my video on.
technological
Hi, everybody.
difficulties continue. Oh,
And, and not.
are you gonna proceed, or you?
I'm gonna proceed, but
Okay.
my heart is heavy. God.
You'll have to dazzle us with dialogue.
Oh. So sparkling conversation here. So I am talking about 3 projects. I work largely with NBFIP and with EQIP or other conservation research programs from NRCS. At this time, I am doing an NRCS project in Healdsburg. It's around 70 acres to respond to the fire, where we go in and take the redwood resprouts from the virtual clear cut and thin them down to approximately 2 trees per stump. So that we can get effective regrowth and also diminish the fire pocket that is building up in the middle of the redwoods. And inside that fire pocket, there is also a habitat pocket for wood rats and lady gray squirrels, and they eat the cambium of the trees. So the faster we get in there, the lower danger we have of fire and also of rodent damage. So that's one project, and I'll be going through that again with the workers and dissecting the nest, maybe 2 weeks of DNA or camera traps. The next project is a management plan south of Occidental for the Catholic Youth Organization. And that has been funded by, or we look forward to that being funded by NVFIL. So we can turn that into how do we grow old redwoods and beautiful stands in the middle of this extremely heavily used campsite area. And also, how do we keep Bohemian Highway safe in those adjacent areas? This is Salmon Creek watershed. It's very delicate. We want to do a great job, and there's a lot of considerations about people. And we'd love to do as much thinning as we can, a lot of dead SOD. Third area is also South Occidental, across the street from the CYO camp, which is the Salmon Creek School, and areas to the north and all the way up to Fiore Lane. So we've got this sandwich between Bohemian Highway and Fiore Lane, and it's not possible without the neighborhood organizer. Marjorie Green is the neighborhood organizer there. Shout out to Colin and Cole. As well. And she's put together 9 landowners who are all into it, and that includes the Salmon Creek School. We just finished sort of walking through it, flagging it, getting discovery of things people didn't know were there, finding out where the property lines have been violated, you know, all those little things that you do before you do a project. And that's 49 acres out of about 120 on the land, and we will be doing, under NB5, we'll be doing tree thinning, brush thinning, planting. I'd like to slip some rhododendrons and other beautiful plants into the area, because heck, it's a school and everybody wants their backyard to be great. We'll also be doing pruning, piling, and burning. So we'll see what NB5 approves on that area, but that's another 50 acres of action. And then we will now be in the NB5 program, so we have another 50 acres of projects we want to do down there, including creating fire egress, including for the school. Busy days.
Yeah.
And you're gonna use the students as labor, right?
Yeah.
Well, only for things that require small hands.
Then questions, Chris. But Adriana, you're on. That's all right.
Yeah, I guess it's just one application that was recently submitted was, and it's funny, we had the wildfire prevention grants, and like the whole time I knew it was open, I was like, yeah, I don't have anything to apply for, I'm not applying this time. And then kind of at the last moment, I realized, well, we have talked about wanting to do another conference. Remember the conference we did in 2023? And so we don't have any plans for another conference yet, but if we had the funding, we could start planning. So I worked with Conservation Works to be our fiscal sponsor for that application, and put in a $130,000 request for another conference. You know, sounds like a huge budget, but it is kind of what conference costs. I mean, when you think about the food and the rental, the venue, all the planning, you remember how many months we were planning for? So I don't know, if we can achieve a conference with less funding, that's my goal. I hope we don't have to spend the whole thing, but that's what we submitted for, and it's for if we receive the funding, it would be for 2027. So that's kind of the timeline we're thinking, is like we'll have it all of 26 and then spring of 27 to plan, and then host it around the spring or summer 2027. Hopefully that feels like enough time. I put the proposal together with Kim Batchelder, who has an intimate understanding of the conference, you know, what conferences take, because he's been in them a few times, like Jill. And
Fred and Judy.
yeah, and me. So you guys remember how much effort that takes. So yeah, we'll see if we get it. It's a, you know, we got a positive response from our local fire, but you never know. And if not, we'll just apply to something else, or see if we can do something other than a conference, something just as meaningful but not as expensive. So that's I'm gonna mention that. And we also Caitlin Cornwall from Sonoma Ecology Center was interested in also submitting. I'm not sure if they did submit. Brenda, do you know?
They
Okay.
did, yes.
Oh, okay, great. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I would just like to interject real quick that we also partnered with her on that grant.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, maybe all three of us can share more about it, because I only know a little bit, but Sonoma Ecology Center submitted and also an education proposal to CAL FIRE wildfire prevention, and it was for a series of workshops kind of like not centralized, like the conference would be very centralized, everyone would come to the conference, but Sonoma Ecology Center's proposal was for decentralized workshops, kind of going to the communities, teaching about the handbook, the principles of the Tending the Land handbook and website, and
Resilient landscapes.
resilient landscapes. Yes, I'm gonna pass it to you, Judy. Can you say more about that proposal?
Well, ours was we put in a planning grant to help, I mean, our portion was planning,
Okay.
to help with capacity to, to continue doing this work and doing work like bringing people in as well, like Sonoma Ecology Center and our Firewise community and all of that.
Cool. So yeah, so two of those, and then, I guess there are a couple other just funding related things I wanted to say. So you mentioned NCRP, the North Coast Resource Partnership has funding for project development, and it's true, they do offer that pretty frequently, and I think it's available right now. So if anyone out there has a project that they would like to develop, they can actually get funding from NCRP, like small $15,000 grants. That'll help you hire a forester, hire a mapper, someone that can help you do the technical side of your proposal that you need help with. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to ask me, and I'll also send out some information in the listserv later.
Is that only for nonprofits or is that for general public as well?
I don't know, actually.
You don't have, I don't know about the general public, but you don't have to be a nonprofit, because they have a list of, a menu of
Right.
ways to, for eligibility when they show.
Nice. And then also just, since we're talking about funding, I'm not sure if this is the right time for me to talk about it, but the State Coastal Conservancy is doing kind of rolling applications for projects as well, and the RCDs have our ears open to hear about projects that we can help support to go through for that funding. So and that's actually something that we're kind of thinking about. Any of the North Bay Forest Improvement Program applications that were really strong but didn't make it, we might roll those over to State Coastal Conservancy. So that's just another opportunity.
All right, Jessica, you're on.
Okay, I'm gonna try and share my screen. See if I have any better luck than Fred. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we put in a proposal to NFWF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, their coastal resilience funding, back in September. No, that was next month. Last month, it's been a crazy proposal writing phase. And the proposal is called Planning the Fuels to Flows Framework for the Southern Russian River Watershed. So basically, it's a large-scale planning grant that covers the entire Sonoma County portion of the Russian River watershed, and it is to plan for the fuels to flows work, which includes goalie stuffing that Bryn mentioned earlier. And there's a little schematic we've developed that gives an example of all the different types of treatments that are essentially low-tech process-based restoration treatments that can be done in these upper headwaters, class 3 water bodies. And so what we're planning to do is get a large stakeholder group together to look at all the available waterways in the Russian River watershed and prioritize where this type of fuels to flows work could be done. And I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar, but the concept of fuels to flow is taking the slash from fuel load reduction work and then using it for creek restoration in the creek. So this is just an overview map of all the different forested areas within the watersheds. As you can see, there's a lot. So one big part of our project will be getting a huge stakeholder group together, going through this map, comparing the old and new LiDAR to see where we have severely eroding waterways and gullies, And then working through with our technical advisory committee to identify where the priority work is, both for the fuel load reduction as well as the creek restoration. So that's one component. Another one is working with Trout Unlimited. They're part of the project team. And I should mention the project team would be us, Goldridge, Trout Unlimited, Ag and Open Space, and Occidental Arts and Ecology Center. And then, so working with Trout Unlimited to develop a monitoring protocol and formalize that so we can have a well-established baseline protocol for monitoring the effectiveness of these treatments. And then also partnering with O'Connor Environmental to update their surface water, groundwater models that they have in some of these critical watersheds in the area, and to hopefully measure or predict the benefit that these treatments would have for stream flow. So establishing some baseline level of expected outcomes. The second to last thing we're including is programmatic permitting development. So we'll be working with a permitting consultant to get a programmatic CEQA for all of the Russian River watershed to do this fuels to flow work. And then hopefully a programmatic CDFW permit, probably not a programmatic water board permit, but definitely some engagement with the water board and just getting a real clear understanding of what the pathway is to getting these permits. And then lastly, we will, working with Brock at Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, build out a practitioner training program or certification program so that folks that are wanting to do this work can go through a course to get certified, and that will hopefully help uplift the technology and practice throughout the community, so folks that are on the permitting side of things can get more comfortable with it. I know they're already doing plenty of workshops, so this is just more funding to really build out that program and define what the curriculum is and what the requirement is. So really all of this work is, if funded, is to set us up for an easier time 2-3 years from now to start doing this at a much more widespread and faster pace, as well as to really start partnering between kind of the water world and the forestry world, which I'm happy to be here and get a lens and listen into the forestry world. Because really we're talking about the same thing very often. And so ideally we can figure out a way to approach a property and look at their forest needs and also think about, is there an opportunity for doing fuels to flow here? Or vice versa, if we're visiting somewhere that has eroding waterways, can we say, okay, great, here's some treatments for that, but you should also think about forest management in this area, and then generating your materials on site to do this treatment.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
What about the reservoir?
Thinking big. We're holding questions and forging ahead. So we finished the question 1 of 4. Question 2. Why did you choose the funding source, and did you explore alternatives?
Yes, we did. When I started at Sonoma Ecology Center about a year ago, one of the first things that I did was make a big list of all the project concepts that we had, and then a big list of all the possible areas we could get money and try to match them up. And for me, the clear fits, especially with the Prop 4 money coming out, that made sense for the Fuels to Flow's building stuffing proposal was Wildlife Conservation Board and the Coastal Conservancy. So for both of those entities, I set up like a free pre-application consultation and shopped around like 5 different very basic proposal concepts to them. WCB actually wasn't very interested in this one even before it was being framed as a fuels project. We actually initially had scoped this and thought about it as more of a focus on like the habitat and water benefits from the gully stuffing piece of it, and a little bit less of a focus on the fire resilience, just because of some of the preferences of our partners and the angle we were approaching it at. So WCB was not super interested in that approach or the project in general. And then the Coastal Conservancy was like, yeah, that sounds great, but can you make it a fire project? Because that's where we have money. So we're in the middle of a bit of a rebrand on the project to just talk about it a little bit differently and maybe prioritize sites in a slightly different way as we get together that application for the Coastal Conservancy.
Pretty much, for us, because once the governor announced the emergency, the wildfire emergency and waived the CEQA exemptions, Health Fire and Prop 4 seemed the best fit for us and our projects. As I said, we did partner with the RCD on a Prop 4 grant. They submitted Sonoma RCD. They submitted a concept proposal. We have not heard from that yet. Haven't heard back on that. The last I heard from Christine, it could be January before we hear anything. So, I mean, honestly, I shop around everywhere. As I said, we have all of these projects, already, this huge suite of projects. And so for me, I look at all the funding sources that are available out there and what's the best fit for what we're trying to do. And right now, we're looking at increasing the pace and scale of these fuel reduction projects. Cal Fire and Prop 4 just really seem the best fit for us. And we've attended all the workshops, all these grants, solicitation workshops, and these, as I'm sure all of you know, these grant proposals are they're complicated, they take a long time, and I've written a number of CAL FIRE grants. And for me, looking at CAL FIRE right now was the best fit. For me, that would take the least amount of time considering everything else we have going on.
Great question. Easy answer is I'm a RPF, so I deal with private forest land, and I'm a neighbor to a lot of these people. So we want to develop our fire management plans for the neighborhood first. As we do that, we fall into forestry practices. We find out where we can go. So we're always working with NRCS and NBFIP first because the process is easiest and it tends to cover what we're doing. I would say we're in the $5,000 to $100,000 range, and Judy's in the $100,000 to $1.5 million range. So we're looking at different things going on, and anytime I figure it's a victory anytime we get the people with the money out to the community to look and see what's going on, and we'll be doing even things like management plans for conservation easements. Why not? Thanks.
Yeah, it's a really good question for the 2027 Forest Landowners Conference. The CAL FIRE Wildfire Prevention Program was the first funding source I had considered. So I just saw it as an opportunity and thought, okay, let's just, take our shot. I kind of like very last minute, so not very premeditated. And yeah, I don't know if it doesn't work out. I'm not totally sure where else we'll apply to, but I'll be keeping my ear open for a program that is open to a small education project.
Well, thank you for putting in that conference planning grant conference. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you in advance for your volunteers then.
And Jessica, you're up.
Yeah, we've had a pretty good experience with NIFWIF in the past. They're good to work with. They generally support kind of flexible spending projects that we need to do, like a lot of development work, and we've already had a coastal resilience grant to do some of the veg management work that some folks have shared on, and invasive removal. And we've been supporting Sonoma County Regional Parks doing some fuels to flows planning work at Mark West Regional Park, and so we've been kind of plotting internally with Brock, like how do we do this at a bigger scale? And so when we saw this coastal resilience grant come up, we thought it would be a great opportunity. We haven't really pitched it to other groups yet. I know WCB is short on funds at the moment, or it's not widely giving away things. So them and SCC are other kind of go-tos, but really hopeful that we got some good feedback in the pre-application round. So really hopeful that this goes through.
And Jessica, could you remind us a couple of the abbreviations you're using, NIFWIF and I forgot.
NIFWIF, National
Two
Fish
others.
and Wildlife. I don't know if it's Foundation or Federation, forgive me. And then Wildlife Conservation Board, WCB, and then State Coastal Conservancy is SCC.
Very good, thank you. Oh, okay, we're halfway there. Question 3. Describe a lesson learned from past funding, proposal application process, and you might or might not want to tie that in with how it influenced what you did this time.
I realized there was one thing I forgot to mention in the last question that might be interesting to this group. I spoke with Jen Stanfield, who's the WCB person who's more focused on the forest side of things, I believe, last week. And one piece of info that she gave us is that right now, for their forest health money, they have 2 tiers that she's thinking about. The first is mountain meadows and aspen stand restoration. And the second priority is of any other kinds of forest work. She said she doesn't have a definitive breakdown on how she's funding that, but she threw out the number 80%, I think, for tier 1. And she said that if she has a proposal for a meadow restoration project at the same time as more of a general forest health funding project, she'll take the meadow to the board and the forest health one will wait. If that's helpful at all for anyone as you're thinking about funding strategy. To the question at hand, in terms of lessons learned, I'm actually pretty new to the grants world, so I don't think I have that many groundbreaking things to say here, but one big thing I learned from the first couple grant apps I put in was the importance of having some of the fundamental things ready in advance. A big one for me was a list of all the entities I wanted to ask for letters of support and their contacts. It ended up sucking up so much time, and I ended up putting in, spending a lot of time looking for contact information for agencies that I didn't have relationships and having to ask for letters back on timelines that I wasn't always super comfortable asking for as like my first contact with those agencies, which is just like not a great look. So I am really happy to now have a good table of all the contacts I'm going to be working with. And I think I'm trying to identify what other like more structural resource pieces I can get together in advance of other big applications. And on that note, I have not really figured out how to use like ChatGPT and other software in a really effective way in my grant writing so far, but the most effective place I've been able to use it is just writing up a template letter of support and then putting it into ChatGPT and saying, can you rephrase this in 10 different ways for these like 10 different kinds of audiences? It's been a really fast way to get like the letter of support that you need from county parks and the letter of support you need from the district 1 supervisor without spending a ton of time on it.
I'll have to talk to you about that, because I don't even know what that is. I have just a couple of things and I'll go through them fairly quickly. The lessons over the years that I've learned is attend all the webinars that are offered on the particular grant that you're applying to, and read the grant guidelines. I mean, I read them first, read them through once, and I highlight what's important. I make a list of what they're looking for, and as I'm writing my grant proposal, I go back and I check things off that list, making sure that I'm addressing what the grant is requiring. The other thing is I send a draft of our proposals to our local, this is CAL FIRE, so for this grant, to our local unit. Mike Wink is the person for this area, but I also copy Marshall and Ben. Marshall Turnville has driven every back road of these ranches with me over the last 5 years. So he has a very good understanding of what we're doing, but Mike is the one who determines if that project will go up the review, line, to Sacramento. And so I sent it to him and, and thankfully he sent it back without any comments other than not to change anything, but he said it was competitive and it met it aligned with the county CWPP and the CAL FIRE, unit plan. So that was encouraging. Doesn't mean that it's gonna make it up there, but, that was good. That was good. That's always good for us. And because I did that, weeks before the grant was due, then those last couple of weeks I had just to refine the proposal. And we weren't putting it together. And when I mentioned about the webinar, I wasn't going to attend the CAL FIRE one. They have what they call virtual office hours on mapping. But I did. And the one thing that the takeaway for me was upload your maps on time because they take a lot of time. And if you're waiting until the last minute, the system could get backed up and it shuts down at 3 o'clock on the day that that's due. So if they're not all uploaded by then, you're not even considered. It's gone. So and then the other lesson is, don't wait until the last minute to submit your proposal. I mean, for us, because we were submitting 4 of them, it was really important for me. I created an Excel workbook with each partner. And one was just all the contact information. 2 of them, I had to set up it's called eCivis that they're using, plus now it's another one, that they're both combined. So I had to set up accounts for 2 of our partners. And then the Mariposa one, something happened to theirs, so we ended up having to submit theirs and finish theirs, get all their information. But having a spreadsheet with all that information, contact information and passwords and everything that you need to do that. And then another sheet that had all the pertinent information that they needed. How many acres were in which fire hazard security zone, because you have to break that all down in these applications. And how much what was their budget? What was their overhead? And so I set up in that spreadsheet for each application, all that information. So when you're drafting and editing your proposals, you can go back and make sure, okay, are those numbers correct all the way? And, and then, there's also just boilerplate stuff that we use because we've submitted so many grants. I keep a file on all of that. What is our population density? How many acres are in our units? How many structures are impacted by these projects? And I have a workboard with sheets of all of this stuff. So whatever I'm doing, whether it's grant writing or anything, I can just look at it and say, oh yeah, we have 205 acres. Oh yeah, we have 4,880 acres in these 4 ranches. But all that information is at your fingertips. You don't want to have to keep looking through it. And then the last thing is, get your letters of commitment and support. I usually try to do that first thing and I didn't. I waited until because we were working on so many projects and I was like you, I was like, oh my God, now I gotta call and say, hey, can you get this to me like by next Tuesday? And I think that's pretty important because you need to draft those letters and you need to get them out to the right people. So those were some of the lessons that I've learned doing this work over the years, and specifically with this one because we submitted multiple applications.
There you go. Know who you're working with. I actually am on a webinar right now with NRCS to learn how to become a TSP. I don't know if I'll make it through the website. The most important thing for me is this is a community forestry meeting. We're all sharing ideas. We're all learning how different functions work at different levels. Second, chat GPS. Yeah, no, not GPT, GPS. Yeah, no, you take the person from the agency out and you tell them to turn on their GPS. and you drive them around the project. And you go to multiple project areas, you get to know the service person who is doing this. I spent a lot of time with Jason, I spent a lot of time with Genevieve, I spent a lot of time with Sloan, I spent a lot of time with Sebastian. These are our contact people, and we might even have longer lives here than they do in this zone. So we have to work with people constantly to both bring them up to what the situation is and show them adjacency between parcels, show them who the community leaders are and where the most effective change is gonna be. Jill used to be the one of the best of these ever. And it's an honor to have you here, but, so that's kind of where I'm going. Know your people on the funding end, and also know your people, this is a forestry thing, one, have a binder for every project, and two, physical, so you can't lose it. Know who all of the possible contractors are, what they're doing, and what it takes to get them on site, interested, and the project done within time, because one of the great problems with these projects is either we take on too much and can't finish it, or we suddenly get hung up with contractors. So develop a good relationship with a contractor that you can rely on their word blind virtually, but you still have to be there at 5 a.m. to tell them where the flags are. So there you go. Good coffee. Wake up early. And know who you're dealing with. How's that?
Good.
Is that about right?
Good tips. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like all these things we're talking about are really important. The things you just learn through experience, right? And then you eventually you have the memory, you've got the file, you can refer to it later. For folks who are really new, just starting out, Goldridge wrote up a little proposal, like grant proposal guide that I will send out to everyone, just so you guys have it. There's just like it's just kind of like what does, okay, what's a grantee? What's who's the grant holder? What's a fiscal sponsor? What's, just kind of going through some of that stuff, and then it has a little checklist of all things that you'll want to think about as you're preparing. It also has a timeline, because like you said, starting ahead of time is really important. So, okay, if my proposal is due on this day, how many weeks ahead of time should I be asking for letters of support, or how many weeks time should I be just drafting the project idea and then sharing it with my partners so that I know who's in, who's out, that kind of thing. Because the timeline is critical, and it can be hard to visualize your time and how you're gonna have to spread things out. You have so much to do when you put in a proposal. So I'll send that out to everyone. And I'll just leave it at that.
Jessica.
Just ditto to what everyone else said. Ours, as you guys saw earlier, was a very big proposal and required collaborating with a lot of team members. And I know that's kind of the next question on the list, but it was really important that we engage with everyone on the team as soon as we could, and then just kept everyone apprised. There were so many moving parts, and it was hard to remember to update the rest of the team when we decided that like regional parks is actually not going to be on the proposal, and they're just going to be a TAC member, and just kind of trying to keep your team up to date. And then being an engineer, I love spreadsheets, so I just track every little I have to dot and T I have to cross with spreadsheets, and it's a very tedious and long effortful process, and just grateful to have a good team working on it. And ditto to getting the letters of support out earlier. I've learned CDFW needs it feels like almost a month to get you an official letter, because they have to run it by their higher ups, whereas other folks can just write you one without asking permission. So that was a lesson I learned from a earlier proposal. And then another mistake I made on our letters of support for this, a lesson learned for this proposal, was I forgot to mention Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, and that felt like a big miss to our like partner and also the founder of Fuels to Flow. And that was a big miss on my end, and just due to me rushing things, and felt really bad about it and apologized. And you know, we're giving them credit throughout the grant. They're on the project team, but felt junky about that. So just slow down a little bit and try and double check things. But it's hard when you're rushing through, and we had less than a month to go from pre-proposal to full proposal. So it's kind of a very quick process.
All right, and as Jessica said, the final question is, how do you work together with your community and partner organizations on funding proposals? And Jessica, since you already touched on that a bit, did you have anything you want to add on that subject?
You know, I think it's just good to, like I said, engage early and often, and people really appreciate being like informed. I know we've been told after the fact, like, oh, we wrote you into a grant. It's like, that would be great to know before, so I could give you a more accurate scope and budget. So just trying to really do our due diligence about who all is going to be in this. Even with the letters of support, like I knew when I was asking the water board for a support letter that they're going to have an opinion on this because we're talking about programmatic permitting. So I really tried to explain, like, this is what we're working towards. You know we're not going to get a programmatic permit just yet, but we really want to engage you in the process. So just really being thoughtful about how you're bringing people in, and, you know, what their initial reaction might be. And for us, like, Fuels to Flows is a relatively newer thing. Maybe a lot of people in this room are excited about it, but a lot of people are nervous about it and hesitant about it. And so kind of the messaging was like, this is the point of this proposal, is to find funding to talk about it, address concerns, iron out any kinks and problem areas. And so, yeah, just really, you know, trying to be open and engage partners on it too. And also just like shout out to Adriana and other partners that we worked with and picked up the phone last minute to try and brainstorm and you know, pivot quickly on putting together ideas for this. So yeah, it's a team effort, like Fred said, and everyone in this room is working on kind of shared goals. And we're also, as an RCD, trying to go a little bigger on proposals too, just because, you know, more bang for the buck, not necessarily just do one-off parcel by parcel. And so this is kind of an attempt too at going a little bit of a bigger scale.
Big scale, definitely, and we have the full range of scales represented here. All right, on our final round.
Great.
Bryn.
I've been trying to figure out in SEC's work. I think I've almost been thinking about our work in two buckets: projects that we're working on where other agencies are really like the big leads spearheading the effort, and then projects where we're really taking the initiative to get started on things. And in that first bucket, the main way that I think we've been working with our partners is just by asking them, like, what do you need and where specifically can we be adding capacity? I think a good example of that, Sonoma Ecology Center has a lot of interest in the pace and how fuels reduction work is getting done in Sonoma Valley, but we're pretty clearly not the best positioned entity to be like figuring out where and how that should happen. So we've been working a lot with Mason Lewis from Sonoma Valley Fire District, and we are currently working on a grant where we're hopefully going to be able to use some CEQA pathways that Sonoma Valley Fire cannot use to go for a grant to do some work in the area around the Montini Open Space Preserve around the city. That's just an example of like an area where we can add capacity and be helpful to his bigger planning about a fuel break in that area. And the second category there, projects where we're kind of taking the lead, similar to this gully stuffing effort where we're gonna be the lead applicant, and we started bringing together entities. This really started for Sonoma Ecology Center because we had a lot of small areas of land where we wanted to do this kind of work, but we didn't think that they'd be competitive in such a small grant proposal. And it also just seemed like kind of a waste of time to do all the admin and overhead lifting, kind of like Jessica was mentioning, more bang for your buck with a bigger proposal. So I think that that is an area where we are really trying to increase those multi-partner applications, especially for other small organizations. I also neglected to mention that Occidental Arts and Ecology Center is gonna be a huge part of our proposal. You know, they're a relatively small nonprofit, as are we. There's lots of other entities around the county that I think we could all really benefit from banding together and kind of each taking turns from doing the administrative work on this kind of stuff. And I think that will tie in nicely to something I think we'll talk about at the end of this panel, which is new opportunities to share information about our grant proposals, so we are not duplicating work and combining forces when we can.
Good point. Oh, partner organizations, yeah. Because we have so many projects lined up, our community outreach is ongoing. And we could submit a grant tomorrow. We know that we already have 99% of the landowners on board. But we started after 2017. I see Brooke is still on the call. I think he is, yes. When he was up there at the General Headlands, we formed a group called the Sonoma Coast Collaborative, where we had Brooke, someone from the Munis Ranches, and myself, who got together and looked at how can we do this large scale? How can we do this work here on the coast at scale? And so from that, we grew from that and really started building our partnerships with the organizations and the agencies that we work with, like the Ag and Open Space District, because we have a grant with them. We started working with Sonoma Land Trust, with Shanti, and but we also have these subdivided ranches. We have 4 subdivided ranches that comprise, I think, about a little over 4,000 acres, no, maybe more than that, over 5,000 acres. And 3 of which have HOAs. So we work with those HOAs who then have, homeowners associations. So we reach out to the landowners individually, and then the HOAs keep their members updated on what we're doing. So that's been really helpful. But also with these 4 grant proposals that we just submitted, we've been working with Timber Cove Fire already. We'd already been working with the General Headlands and with the Munis Ranches, which are outside the subdivided ranches on the other side of Fort Ross Road. So, I mean, it's a pretty diverse community. And so we partner with the community leaders. Right now, we have about 12 community leaders up the coast, all the way up to Walla, and with Kashaya, with Annapolis. We even work with the Sea Ranch, even though they manage their forestry and fuels reduction work independently. We share resources with them. We work with the Save the Redwoods League, that's managing the Harold Richardson's Redwood Preserve, and then all the local fire districts. So it's a matter of staying in touch with them, keeping them informed of what we're doing, but also sharing resources. So which means being in the community a lot. I mean, we have something like 90,000 acres from the General Headlands up to the Wallow border, Mendocino border, going about 8 miles in. So there are a lot of communities in there. And my job and our community outreach worker is to stay in touch with these people. And then moving out, working with all of you on learning what you're doing, learning how, and again, so that we're not duplicating efforts, because some other organizations are also doing work in the same area we are. I can see that Courtney's online right now. They're doing a project. This Courtney, we've known from Sonoma County Permit Sonoma. They're doing a project up in our area, and so we're assisting them with landowner outreach. And so that we know what they're doing, we know that we're not gonna go and design a project that overlaps with what they're doing. we're working with the Jenner Headlands, which is, the Wildlands Conservancy, which is very different for us. You know, I mean, our landowners, we work with them, individually, we're working with the Jenner Headlands, but you know, we're actually working with the Wildlands Conservancy, and so they have a whole different set of agreements, and so we're learning how to deal with that. So collaboration is wonderful, but it's also challenging. And what we've learned is open communication is key to everything. You know, I have a wonderful relationship with Luke Farmer up there on the Jenner Headlands, and some of the agreements that the Wildlands Conservancy is requesting or has requested. He's helped me work my way through that, and so, you know, I'm learning how to work, you know, in a collaborative way with agencies outside of our small landowners. And so I think that that's pretty much keeping the, you know, talking about partners, our forest workers, I consider them our partners as well. We have 4 crews up there that work with us. And I like to keep that communication open because there's goodwill within the community that really needs to be addressed, as well as all of the other stuff. So you have your small landowners, you have your community leaders, you have your organizational support. And right now, because we're looking at building capacity, we're also now looking more towards our elected officials to help us to, how are we gonna implement 4,000 acres worth of projects that are budgeted right now at about $23 million. And, our goal is if we can do even 500 acres a year, that's going to take a lot of money. That's gonna take a lot of money to plan. So building those partnerships, for us are so important because we're in an area that's pretty isolated from the rest of the county. And, we're, yeah, so I'm going.
Ongoing. It's curious living in a community of hermits. Where everybody wants 40 acres, but they need to talk to each other. I see it as a fractal thing, kind of. My most important partners are the landowners. And I come in there as a forester and I say, you know, the government's got all these programs, they got all these things, there's all these things we can do, but why don't we start with the basics? Is your house about to catch on fire? You know, let's do all the soup to nuts planning for what the toolbook of forestry, land management, and even going into ag has available. Cause I mean, we're supposed to be thinking about grazing now. One of my clients is an elderly guy with Parkinson's. We're working with him with NRCS to get him money for planting his crops every year and building his fences and making him a conservation resource partner. And the amount of money is probably more money than he makes from anything else, far and away. And we have aging in place, we have poverty in place, we have billionaires in place, we have programs that fit no one, while we have rules that can be bent to fit almost any situation. Long live Helen the Bug, who said, for every rule, there is an equal and opposite in lieu practice. So what I'm really trying to say is forestry is a daily act. Improving your land is a daily act. Understanding it is a daily act. Your forester or your resource management professional or your technical service provider is the gateway to understanding that. And if you say, I want to go with the program here, I want to understand how to grow trees and not have fire, then your eyes will start, the client's eyes will start to see that, and they will be helping you too. We can't do anything without clients, and we can't do anything. We can't have clients without seeing to what their actual needs are. So the good side is you get to know your neighborhood, you get to drive around in your ATV, you get to harvest apples during cider time, you get to have tomatoes when they're ready. And with that, you are providing forestry and fire control. So I see it as a continuum.
That was like poetry. Yeah. I mean,
That's what you get when you ask a poem.
I know. Yeah, I love these answers and Fred, that's so inspiring. Well, everyone's been really inspiring.
Should be your teacher.
Yeah, and Fred was my teacher. So I have to.
She still has that.
Well, you're my teacher too.
But yeah, to answer the question, I feel like there's like so many ways to answer this question about like how do you work in partnership to create a strong proposal. I think that was the question. Partnerships?
Something about working together.
Working together, okay, I guess so like stating the obvious. I guess it's kind of important, it's like a grant proposal is it's not just free money, it's free money for a predetermined scope of work and partnership. So you will get this money, but you have to do it exactly how you said you were going to. So knowing how you want to spend it before you ask for it is really important. So there's all that pre-work that we were just talking about, all the pre-work of figuring out exactly who's gonna do what, who's included, and where we're doing it. And then you all have to shake hands and say, okay, we're gonna do this for the next 5 years, or however long it's gonna be. And that takes a lot of conversations ahead of time and preparation to know what you wanna do. So that's, I guess, the obvious part of how, what you have to do to prepare your proposal. But I think going even further back than that is kind of the heart of this is like, how do you go even further back from not the time that you apply or the time that you conceive the project, but from the time of how do we even know what our needs on the ground are? And how do you even know who's out there, what crews, what's the capacity, who needs what? That's the kind of ongoing forever work that we need to be doing all the time. And without that, we can't have any of this work really be done in a quality way. So I think that getting coordinated and getting familiar with who's on the ground is super important. Bryn, I'm really glad that you're bringing this spreadsheet that you're going to talk about really soon to us about like just scoping out what project ideas are out there. Because that's exactly the kind of partnership that we need to do. And then I think if not right now, but later we should talk about the state of the CWPP, which was supposed to be like a place for all these ideas to come together in one spot, and still maybe could be someday, but it's going through a rough patch right now, which is worth mentioning in case not everyone is aware. So, but we can talk about that later at the end.
All right, that's a wrap on the panel discussion.
Did you get Jessica?
Well, Jessica started. And unless you had something else to add, I want to thank our panel for giving super thoughtful and forthcoming answers, and also for covering 90 minutes of material in 60 minutes, 65. There's no time for questions. So I also want to ask the panelists if you would put your emails in the chat, if you're willing and have time. People online can email questions or pick up questions from the chat. And if you have time to stick around afterwards to hit questions from folks in the room, then bigger bravos. So.
Thank you for bringing it together.
Rose did a really nice job with her questions for us.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
and then Rose, I'll turn the rest of the agenda over to you. And I know Bryn is ready to talk about another way to coordinate better.
Yeah, so I think we'll give our last 10 minutes to Bryn to talk about this coordination tool. The other thing on the end of the agenda is just always our upcoming events, but I kind of front loaded it by telling you all about the picnic up front. So just one more reminder that Saturday, September 13th, we're gonna have a picnic, and I'll send more information to the listserv. So I'll hand over our last 10 minutes to Bryn.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi again. I think you probably heard a few things today that might make this seem like a pretty good idea. A couple of things that happened in the last month that really got Caitlin, my manager at Sonoma Ecology Center, who can't be here today because she is dropping off her kid at college in Maine. Very exciting. She excuse me, sorry. There was a CAL FIRE prevention proposal where Caitlin and Judy and other partners were putting together a big education pitch. And I think kind of in the 11th hour, they all started talking to Adriana and the other people putting together that proposal. And there was just this thought of like, man, I wish we had known this from the beginning. Maybe there would have been a better way to scope work or coordinate. You probably also heard today, Jessica and I are submitting 2 grants for goalie stuffing work in 2 very different parts of the county. They don't really overlap, but now that I've spoken to her about the scope of their project, there's a lot of little things that I'm gonna be sure to include in my application, like referencing the workforce training program that she's putting together and hopefully getting some matching money for that. And then finally, I think a lot of people today have thrown around the State Coastal Conservancy as an option for funding for some of the things that we're applying for. And just getting organized and knowing like, hey, what are people applying for? Are there opportunities to either combine proposals? Are we literally applying for the same thing and we just need to decide who's gonna do it? And also, at least on SEC's end, we often have like really small projects on small parcels and we're always looking for bigger grants to just like stick our things into if people will have us. So with all that in mind, I've created this document for us to have a bit of a more formalized way to share some of the information that is getting passed around at these meetings. I am not certain exactly how this is gonna fit in and how useful it will be, but I think it's worth trying for a few months and I hope people are interested in participating. And I'll give you a quick tour of what we have here. So this README page just talks about what this spreadsheet is, and then each tab following is for a big grant application that's coming up. So we can start with the CAL FIRE prevention. There's a section here that says who the lead applicant is, a very quick project concept. You can say who's reporting it. I thought this was helpful since I know, for example, Sonoma Valley Fire is probably not going to be using this spreadsheet, but I often know what they're up to. So I would like the opportunity to be able to put in like information about their projects without feeling like I'm speaking for them. So there's this like, I'm talking about my own project or I'm talking about another organization's project. There's the status, who your partners are, and then the best point of contact and estimated ask. So as we go into some of these bigger proposals, like for example, we have a tab for the Forest Health for 2025. We have a tab for the Forest Health Research Program for 2025. We have a tab for the State Coastal Conservancy that notes the pitch that Sonoma Ecology Center is going to be putting in. I think it would be really helpful if we could all take some time to put in the things we're thinking about applying for. I know earlier today, Jill mentioned the Mediterranean oak borer. I wouldn't be surprised if there were multiple entities in the county that were thinking about, hey, how can I be applying for some kind of research grant for this? I think that's a really good example of a place where we may all be able to use this resource as a way to get coordinated. On my end, when I hear about things, I'm gonna be putting them in here, whether it's just someone's update at the Forest Working Group, I'll be taking notes in here. I think as part of like my monthly piece at the Forest Working Group, I'll just be pitching this and reminding people that it's here. But I think this could be a really great resource for us all to use as we go into some of these bigger applications to make sure that we are putting in the strongest possible coordinated pitch for our region. And then in terms of just like the tech aspects of it, if you feel comfortable using the spreadsheet and don't have any questions and want to be like duplicating the tabs to create your own stuff, feel free. If you don't want anything to do with it and want me to do it, I'm happy to do it. Please reach out. We're hoping that Sonoma Ecology Center can kind of be in an administrative role, supporting getting this resource together for the Forest Working Group members. So please use it and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Are you gonna send it out now or, okay, I'll send it out right. Perfect.
Great.
I don't have a computer, so I don't even know what's in the chat.
Lovely.
It's okay.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna wrap it up
But she'll
a
have-
few minutes early. Does that sound okay to everyone?
I would just turn it off.
Okay, and then like their emails, addresses.
Andros, for those who are just in person, can they get that information via email after the meetings, like their contact emails and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had time to respond to the chat. There's a way to preserve the chat, so we can check
Yeah.
the chat.
We do have it saved and people have shared their email addresses there too.
Great.
Rose, can you put mine on there for me, please? Because I didn't bring my laptop.
You tell me right now.
Judy.Rosales, ROSALES,
Okay.
at Coast Ridge Forest Council.org.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay, so emails are in the chat and we also have the chat saved and so we can all be in communication. And then Bryn will be sending out that spreadsheet to the listserv after the meeting. Okay,
Well,
thanks everyone.
Thank
See you soon.
Bye-bye.